148 foreign countries. Can you believe that? 100, you talk about a spread, you talk about a violent spread, 148 countries. Not even believable. There's been a week of national action and of great national solidarity. People are getting along. We're getting along with Republicans and Democrats and independents and liberals and conservatives, and actually it's a very nice thing to see. We're all one beautiful, big American family, and that's taking place right now. Last night I approved a major disaster declaration for the state of New York. Worked very closely with Governor Cuomo, and this is the first time in our nation's history that a president's used the Stafford Act to declare a major disaster in response to a public health crisis. Never happened before. I'm considering other areas where we may or may not be doing that, and I'm working very closely with Gavin Newsom, governor of California, and others. We may be doing the same thing depending on their needs, depending on what they're asking for. It's been unprecedented action in New York, and we've had a tremendous federal response all over the country. And I want to thank all the people in the federal government and obviously in the state governments and local governments. We are working hard. Everybody is working hard. And the people standing alongside of me are working very hard. That I can tell you. We've also reached agreements with Canada and Mexico on new travel rules at our northern and southern borders to halt the entry of the Chinese virus while continuing trade and commerce. And we've had very good talks. With Prime Minister Trudeau, and today, this morning, with President Lopez Obrador. And we talked about joint measures that we're taking to prevent the spread of the virus in our countries and to temporarily suspend non-essential travel. We had a great conversation this morning, President of Mexico, and our close cooperation with Mexico and Canada will keep our people healthy, keep their people healthy, keep everybody safe. Yesterday, I had a call with 12,000 small businesses, representatives of these businesses. That's the engine of our country. People don't realize that. You know, you read all about the big ones, but these small business, when you add them up together, are really the engine, economic engine of our country.
All right, welcome everybody. We've got something a little bit different for you today. Today we have a Fox News virtual town hall with President Donald Trump and members of the coronavirus task force. At least as of a few minutes ago, the standard coronavirus task force press briefing is not on Trump's calendar today. There's very little on Trump's calendar, interestingly enough. And this is essentially the only thing on the calendar today. And it's on there twice. Let's take a look at it. Here's Donald Trump's calendar for today. And as you can see, the 12:30, president participates in a Fox News virtual town hall from the White House. Oh, and also there's an interview with Bill Hemmer on Fox News happening after the virtual town hall. That's all that he has. And by the way, that's considered a campaign event, campaign schedule. The only official schedule item for Trump today is a virtual town hall with Fox News. Just as light yesterday, he had lunch with Pence and then did the Gong Show press briefing that we all watched together last night. So we're standing by for that. He has the best calendar, excuse me, and is doing just amazing at everything that he does all the time, permanently. The big concern is that Donald Trump, and welcome to we're doing this just on YouTube and Twitch. I just don't know about there's a risk to doing the Fox News town hall anyway, but Twitter and Facebook, I just wasn't sure about. So we're just doing YouTube and Twitch today. If you have anything, we have about a half hour until this starts. So if anybody has any questions, comments, or anything like that, you can, if you're watching on YouTube, send a super chat. It'll show up in the lower left where it says no new super chats right now, these are the depressing early moments of every stream when nobody has said anything. I will answer your questions and address that. Remember to hit like and subscribe as you enter. If you are watching on Twitch, it's the blue vertical box. Twitch has gone vertical, whereas YouTube has a horizontal box. Box shape, I know, is a big thing in a lot of online communities. On Twitch, you can send a message with your Twitch Prime or regular subscription, and it'll show up in that vertical blue box up there. So here's the thing that is increasingly clear. Donald Trump seems like he is preparing to do what Anthony Fauci is calling let it rip, let it rip. And Trump now saying he goes on around 1 p.m. So we've got a little bit of time to talk. So Trump is signaling that people are going back to work. Trump talked about this morning, he tweeted, "Our people want to return to work. They will practice social distancing and all else, and seniors can be watched over protectively and lovingly. We can do two things together. The cure cannot be worse by far than the problem. Congress must act now. We will come back strong." This is happening at the exact same time that states are adding shelter-in-place stay-at-home orders. In Massachusetts now, non-essential businesses have been directed to close. We are all working from home. We're completely shut down. This is extraordinarily dangerous. And Donald Trump is essentially saying, we're calculating that we're okay with, instead of 5,000 people dying or 10,000 people dying, we're okay with 50 or 100 or however many thousand people dying. Trump signaled this last night. Let me see if I can find it. Trump flu car accidents. I believe he signaled this last night. Let's see if we can watch it together. Here it is.
We're going to be watching our senior citizens very closely. We're going to be watching certain hotspots like New York. And within New York, you have areas which are troubling. And we'll be working with the governor and the mayor and everybody else on those spots. But at the same time, at a certain point, we have to get open and we have to get moving. We don't want to lose these companies. We don't want to lose these workers. We want to take care of our workers. So we'll be doing something, I think, relatively quickly, but we've learned a lot during this period. This was a very necessary period. Tremendous information was gained, but we can do two things at one time. You know, and again, I say we have a very active flu season, more active than most. It's looking like it's heading to 50,000 or more deaths, not cases, 50,000 deaths, which is, that's a lot. And you look at automobile accidents, which are far greater than any numbers we're talking about. That doesn't mean we're going to.
So this is obviously, you guys see what he's doing. This is obviously a signal that he wants to open things back up. Now, there's a couple different things. Number one, the flu death rate is significantly lower than the death rate for coronavirus. Coronavirus death rate is not 3.5%. We know that. But even if it ends up being 1% or 0.75%, even 0.75% is 4 to 5 times greater than the flu. That's number one. Number two, the flu doesn't overwhelm the ventilator capacity and the ICU numbers and start to make every hospital procedure more risky, in the sense that when the system is pushed to the capacity, to the max, outcomes worsen. And then the car accident thing is really dumb, because the point here is that coronavirus deaths and cases are increasing exponentially, right? We would be treating car accidents differently if they looked like this, right? If the question was, do we do an intervention to stop this? Car accidents are tragic, but comparing them to coronavirus is crazy. I mean, again, look at these numbers, as you see here. Daily new cases just accelerating more and more and more in the United States. Active cases accelerating, deaths accelerating. And the idea that we're talking about even remotely the same thing is crazy, quite frankly. Okay, if you're just joining us today, we don't have the standard press briefing. Today we have a Fox News town hall with Donald Trump starting somewhere between 40, 50 minutes from now. We'll be here until then, answering your questions and reading your comments and the entire thing. And also, we will be looking at a number of different videos and things that I have available for you. We do, as usual, have a new member goal of 25. We've got a great discount. People have been really supportive of the streams, and we so very much appreciate it. Let me look at some of the super chats that are coming in. Lenneth asks, David, do you think Dr. Fauci will be present for this? No idea. The relationship between Trump and Fauci at this point is definitely problematic, and we don't know what's going on with Fauci. Andrew Hodge says nobody cares about audience questions. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. We normally get several hundred of them every hour that we stream. So it seems folks, not everybody agrees. Andrew. Joey Gomez says, I like the way you say the word subscribe. Subscribe. I don't know how else to say it. Marika says, being bored and streaming more. We are doing a lot of streaming these days. Zachary Monroe says, hashtag support TDPS. Hashtag one of the best of the independents. Thanks, Zachary. Zachary is at almost every stream and regularly participating. Tagar Ian says, called reps yesterday, tried McConnell, voicemail full. Not surprising. Incredibo says, going to be my last super chat for a while since I'm being hit hard by this. Sorry to hear that. How is Trump's approval this high right now? Best wishes, David. It is sick that Trump's approval has gone up during what, to call it a mishandling implies that there's been a handling. And I don't even know that there has been. It's crazy what's going on. Charlie says, new hotness, Trump branded forsythia. I don't know what that is. I don't know that. I'm not sure what that is. It's a genus of flowering plants in the olive family. There are 11 species. Huh. Maisie Trejo says Governor DeSantis will not shut down Florida. Yeah, I've been reading that. Christopher Hellstrom says, compared to the flu, COVID causes acute pneumonia. Right. Yeah. You have to, Trump. Listen, I think you guys all know that Trump's comparison of this to the flu and to driving cars, it could not be more wrong. Let me say thanks to Toxic Joker, who has given away 5 subscriptions on Twitch. Thank you, Toxic Joker. Very much appreciate that. Captain Red has subscribed for the 2nd month in a row and says, I have been subscribed for 2 months. Love your videos and streams. Thanks, Captain Red. Very much appreciate your support. Also want to say thanks to Cortanios, who has subscribed for the first time on Twitch. Very much appreciate that. We now have, here's something else I wanted to show you as we wait for the Fox News town hall with Trump. Here is Sean Hannity just suggesting a treatment, a prophylactic, a cure for coronavirus while on the phone with Mike Pence. This is, of course, ludicrously irresponsible. Take a listen.
Mr. Vice President, I'm holding up a letter, and I'm going to read from it in a second, from a doctor in the New York area. And if I may read from it, he has now worked with his associates, and he has a regimen.
Regimen.
Hydroxychloroquine, 200 milligrams twice a day, 5 days. Azithromycin, 500 milligrams once a day, 5 days. Zinc sulfate, 220 milligrams once a day for 5 days.
Okay, let's stop there. Let's do this. I want to do this piece by piece. Okay. So chloroquine with or without azithromycin. Yes, it's part of a clinical trial right now. Significant side effects, including for people who should not be taking it. These are medications that have to be prescribed by doctors. So even mentioning this as, hey, here's something you can go and take to protect you from coronavirus, very irresponsible. And in fact, there is a fish tank cleaner that shares an ingredient in common with chloroquine. It's obviously not medical chloroquine. A guy in Arizona died and his wife is in critical condition because he thought, oh, chloroquine, I'll buy chloroquine phosphate, which is a fish tank cleaner, and I'm going to drink it. He died. His wife is in a critical condition because they believed that they were buying chloroquine, the medicine. Of course, it's not. that needs to be given with a doctor's prescription and only in certain situations. Guy died yesterday. Okay. The azithromycin. Okay. We've talked about that. Zinc, we know about zinc already. There are some who claim that zinc can be a prophylactic for the common cold. Others who say it's not. We don't have a cure for the common cold, but it's asserted that zinc can be a prophylactic for the common cold. Remember, some common colds are a coronavirus. Some are, I believe, a rhinovirus. There's 4 different types of viruses that sometimes cause the common cold. If you're not zinc deficient in your diet, it's unclear you get anything from having additional zinc. Okay, so far this is the regimen that Sean Hannity is suggesting. Now listen to how crazy it gets.
This is what he has seen. Him and his team have now treated approximately 350 patients in Kairos Joel, was an area of New York that was hit particularly hard, and another 150 patients.
Okay, let me explain. Sean Hannity doesn't even know what he's reading. Kairos Joel. It's Kiryas Joel. Kiryas Joel is an overwhelmingly Orthodox Hasidic Jewish community about an hour north of the city. A lot of the people that work at BH Photo Video in New York City live in Kiryas Joel. Okay, let's assume Hannity's telling the truth as he knows it. Orthodox Jews have a lot of kids. This is just a reality. When he says 350 people have taken this and nobody has died, this might have been given to 350 young people in Kiryas Joel who didn't even have coronavirus. Imagine that what is being asserted is 350 young people who were unlikely to have serious cases of coronavirus anyway took this and they're fine. It's meaningless, and we don't know what the hell Sean Hannity's talking about.
In other New York areas, his results: we have had 0 deaths, 0 hospitalizations, 0 intubations. Mr. Vice President.
Okay, so I think you guys get it. That's meaningless data if we're not talking about a controlled trial. It's just it's truly crazy what is happening on the Sean Hannity program. Let me say thank you to Calderash for the bits, Marukoso Desu for the bits, and Small Forest for the bits. Very much appreciate that. Let me also say thanks to Kevin Wallace. Kevin is new member number 1 today at joinpacman.com. And Jason Ranschow is new member number 2 today at joinpacman.com. Kevin and Jason, thank you for your support. Really very much appreciate it. Let's see. Breeze31 says, thanks for the streams, much more tolerable to view through you than our cable news channels. Stay healthy. Thank you. I appreciate the support. This is AB says, Lush refused to close in Toronto, claims essential. I don't know what Lush is, so I'm unable to comment. We did do a story today on our bonus show, which all of our members get, about there is now a debate over what counts as an essential business. In California, they've determined that medical marijuana dispensaries are considered essential businesses. In other states, that's literally illegal and people go to prison. So there's this patchwork of laws, and increasingly we're heading towards a showdown between the federal government and the states. Donald Trump is clearly telegraphing that he is getting ready to open the floodgates and say, let's get back to work. Old people, be careful. That's essentially what Donald Trump is telegraphing he wants to do. On the other hand, we have states that are increasingly passing stay-at-home orders, and I don't know who is going to win that battle. We don't know. What you only need to look at this to understand what it is that Donald Trump has in mind, which is that on the basis of the coronavirus rescue bill getting closer and Donald Trump starting to allude to, we're going to open it back up, the market is now up 8.8% today. Now, of course, I love to see that in the sense that I am miserable by what is happening to my investments, but it doesn't appear to be the right thing right now. Let's, by the way, take a look at some of the stocks I've bought recently and see how they're doing. Zoom is down 8%. Zoom's been up huge lately, but it is down. What else did I buy? I bought Roku. How's Roku doing? Roku's up another 12%. Okay, Roku has exploded over the last few days. Glad I got in on that one last week. I did get Bayer on the notion that Bayer might do well because they're one of the chloroquine manufacturers. It's up less than the market today, so that may not go anywhere. And then Live Nation I bought because it crashed because they do live events. My thought was it'll eventually recover. And it did have a big crash. As you can see, big crash, but it has been recovering. So anyway, who knows? I'm just trying. I don't know what I'm doing, right? None of this is financial advice. I'm trying to hedge in some way, shape, or form, but I have no clue what on earth I'm doing. Let me say thanks to Rukus the Great, who has subscribed with Twitch Prime. This is AB says, because we sell soap while Ontario is in a state of emergency. Okay. I don't know exactly the specifics of what's happening in Canada. Lisa Brown has grabbed a YouTube Soy Boy level membership. Thanks, Lisa. Brian Holiday says, my parents support Biden because of proximity to Obama and Clinton's, a return to normal politics. Bernie's policies seem unrealistic, and he has not reached out to the Black community enough to them. I'm hearing that from a lot of folks. Aiden Dowden says, hey, David, if we end up loosening restrictions, do you think a general strike would be effective? Potentially, but is a general strike likely in that scenario? I don't know. I think a lot of people will be desperate to get back to work, and a lot of people may risk it and not want to do a general strike. If you're just joining us on Twitch, remember to hit that follow button. Very much appreciate that. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that like button and also hit that subscribe button. Both very much appreciated as we stand by for the Donald Trump Fox News town hall starting, as far as we know, at the top of the hour. Thanks also to Sudden Echo for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Very much appreciate that. Okay, let's take a look while we have some time at the latest case numbers. We now are officially over 400,000 cases. We now are at over 17,000 deaths, and more than 100,000 people have recovered from the virus so far. Active cases, of course, increasing dramatically. There are now 260,000 people that we know of who currently have coronavirus. If you look at closed cases, the numbers are ugly because 14% of closed cases have ended in death. But remember, only about a quarter of the cases so far have had an outcome. Now, the global numbers still look very ugly, very, very ugly. There are some signs that Italy may have turned a corner. We don't know. They have been locking down for weeks at this point. And what we see there is that now we have an additional day in a row with fewer new cases in Italy. That's a good sign. It's still early. The deaths have also declined for we've had 3 successive days since peaking. I guess it's really only 2 days with declines. And we are watching that in Italy. The numbers in Spain, I believe, are not quite yet improving in the way that we would like to see. Daily new cases spiking dramatically yesterday, and deaths in Spain also spiking dramatically yesterday. Spain does seem to be behind Italy so far. We continue to track an extremely low death rate in Germany. We don't yet know what the explanation is for the low death rate in Germany. Very, very few deaths in Germany. Understand that even though there was a spike yesterday, we're talking about 29. And overall in Germany, you're looking at 133 deaths over 31,000 cases. There are a number of hypotheses. All of the above could be true. Younger people on average getting it in Germany, healthier people on average getting it in Germany, a medical system that is not overwhelmed, which we know dramatically reduces the death rate, or it's still earlier in Germany, and thus the deaths will be following tragically closely behind the new cases. When you look at active cases right now that we know about, Italy with the most, but probably by tomorrow, the United States will have the most active cases. And of course, these numbers drastically understate. We probably have, 500,000 to more than 1 million active cases here in the United States. We really don't know. Could be 1.5 million. We have no idea. Followed by Spain, Germany, France, Iran. And then everybody else is below 10,000 official cases. Switzerland also is a point of interest. A smaller population than a lot of other countries, also maintaining a very low death rate compared to some other countries, higher than some others. And we want to track Switzerland to see if they're able to turn the corner more quickly. Those are some of the key places that are being looked at. A lot of people say, look at Iran, because Iran has a lot of cases and a high death rate. We don't even know how accurate the data is. If you look at Iran, it's a very steady number of new cases in Iran. And when you look at deaths, also a very steady number of deaths in Iran. And there's a number of commentaries that say that the Iran numbers are just sort of hard to believe when you consider them in total. I don't know. We'll have to see. And of course, nobody knows the actual real case number. The official case number is just a tiny fraction of that. Okay, super chats continue to come in. Let's see here. Jamal Swift says, thanks, homie. Thank you, Jamal. Jamal has been in the live streams regularly. Great to see you again. Adam Waddington says, aren't press conferences a big transmission risk? Yeah, we still don't know why it is that everybody stands so close to each other at these press conferences, and social distancing seems to be ignored by the people at the actual press conferences. It seems to me that it's a bad idea. We learned yesterday and more data today about a White House reporter who has been in those press conferences who now has the virus and is not has further culled the number of people in the White House press briefing room. JF Gamby has grabbed a YouTube subscription at the soy boy level. Thank you very much. And I will remind folks, we do have a goal of 25 new members today at joinpacman.com. We are 2. Every time someone signs up, this blue bar starts to fill up and it eventually explodes off the side of the screen. You can use the coupon code listed up there, 2020 now, to save 66% off of your membership. The other thing I want to mention, we have stay-at-home orders in about 20 states so far. If you're bored, if you're looking for something to do, we are doing something. We have a community event tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, March 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific here in the U.S., we will be having the David Pakman Show Viewer Chess Tournament, the first annual. Now, right now, I am the champion of the David Pakman Show chess thing, I guess. There's only been one game so far. I defeated Pat on one of our last shows of 2019. So I am the 2019 David Pakman Show chess champion. My record is 1-0 over Pat, who never plays. All right. So it's not super impressive. This trophy will go to someone else almost certainly. There's people rated over 2,000 in our audience tomorrow night. This is open to anyone. My goal is we have at least 50 players. I hope we have way more. The tournament will be on lichess.org. That's lichess.org. Make an account there. I will start streaming tomorrow night about 15 minutes before the tournament. I will tweet out the link to the tournament. We will probably set up a redirect at davidpakman.com/chess, which will take you to the tournament. Open to everyone. The system will automatically match you with people of your skill level. As you win, you play against better people. If you lose, you'll get matched up against people who aren't quite as good. The system uses data. It'll take care of everything. It's going to be beautiful. And we will get a trophy for the David Pakman Show chess tournament to the winner tomorrow night. I would be shocked if it's me because I'm not that good. And we've got a lot of really good players, but everybody should play. Okay. So that's tomorrow night. This is free. Okay. This costs nothing. I'm not selling anything. Just, it's an opportunity to do something. If you've been bored, if you're looking for something to do tomorrow night. Okay, let's see here. M says, I've been injecting emergency for 3 weeks. Very promising. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Justin Valcourt has grabbed a Soy Boy level membership on YouTube. Brainstew says, Chile, no hay revolución sin canciones. Sing with me. There's no revolution without songs. Okay. Norwegian trad archer is a soy boy now. KC McSticks has grabbed a soy boy level membership. Charlie says, can non-chess players hang out and watch, or is it really just for players? Yeah, so I'm going during the chess tournament tomorrow night, I'll be doing a live stream. So instead of seeing the Fox News town hall, you will see my chessboard and the leaderboard. I will stream the entire tournament. So if you don't want to play, you just want to watch, I'll be streaming tomorrow night. Okay. Maury P asks, David, you are awesome. Are you single? I love data males. I'm not single, but also I'm heterosexual. And I think Maury's only a man's name, right? I don't know. So I exclusively date women. That's just a thing that I do, you know. I say I was born that way. I know that there's a lot of homophobes that say you choose sexual orientation, but my belief is I was born that way, and I can't change who I am, guys. I'm sorry. Let me say thanks to Ashlyn for subscribing on Twitch at tier 1. Let me say thank you to Ragu1992 for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Also, thanks to Cortanios for cheering. I very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. Folks wondering what's going on. So today it appears as though there is not a standard Trump coronavirus press briefing. When we looked at Donald Trump's schedule for the day, let's refresh it to see if it's been updated. All that Trump has on his schedule today is the town hall scheduled for 12:30, and then an interview also on Fox News at 3 p.m. Otherwise, Trump's schedule is clear. So golf simulator, tweeting, watching Fox News, I guess, whatever else. And he has had a very light schedule most days. Yesterday, all he had was lunch with Mike Pence and then that Gong Show press briefing. Day before, all he had was the press briefing. Day before, he had one phone call and a press briefing. So Trump is keeping a very, very light schedule. And today, all that is on the schedule is a Fox News town hall. Trump's scheduled to come out in about 20 minutes or so. So that's where that's what we're waiting on at this point in time. Let me say thanks to Jacob Schneidman. Jacob Schneidman. Mazel tov on the new membership, number 3 at joinpacman.com. Appreciate it very, very much, Jacob. Okay, let's see here. Essential says, have you been watching the Senate live? You know, I've been in production all morning, and then now I'm streaming, so I've not been watching the Senate today. Richard Harris says, I recently became a member at joinpacman.com. How does this differ from a YouTube membership? Am I missing any incentives? No, the most incentives, the perks really are at joinpacman.com. All of the other ways to sign up, Patreon or Patreon, as I've heard some people say it, people I don't associate with, but I have heard that posited very strongly. Patreon, YouTube subscriptions, all that stuff. We lose a bigger slice than on our website at joinpacman.com. So the best place to sign up, I think is what I'm trying to say, is joinpacman.com, where we keep everything but a 2.9% little tiny slice of your payment. Alex Jones says, can you imagine? Oh, nope, we're not doing it. Alex Jones has been spending a lot of money the last few days trying to get me to just read insults about my friend, Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II. And I'm just not doing it. I hope that these are good investments for you, Alex, but I'm not going to do it. Maury P says, I'm heterosexual too, but exceptions can be made. Okay, wow. Maury getting very, very excited there about a lot of different things going on. Let's just listen real quick to what's being said on Fox News just to get a sense of it.
Thank you, Bill. Every morning when I wake up, I go to the Johns Hopkins Global Map, and I'm studying data and numbers from various countries, not just ours, but South Korea and China and Italy and Spain over the weekend, too.
Does anyone believe Bill Hemmer's studying data?
Data that you look for the moment you wake up in the morning.
Well, it really is how we begin every meeting of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. Dr. Deborah Birx is probably the leading expert on infectious diseases in the world.
Notice, by the way, how Birx has fallen in line now, but Fauci has not. So now all of a sudden, it's not Fauci who's the authority. It's Deborah Birx. it's amazing how they have everything is crafted. Everything is crafted. Jinxed Carrie has grabbed a Twitch Prime subscription with the message League of Legends for Nerds. I've never played League of Legends. I have no clue what it is. Is it like a Warcraft type game? I have no clue what we are talking about when we talk about League of Legends. Let me say thanks to JWaz. JWaz is new member number 4 today at joinpacman.com. JWaz, thank you for your support. Very much appreciated. We should just be about 15, 20 minutes from the start of this Donald Trump Fox News town hall, near the top of the hour. Fried Rice Official says, David, when's the OnlyFans starting? Excited for it. I don't know what OnlyFans is. I have no clue what that means. OnlyFans. See what that means. Social media service based in London. Creators run paid subscription content with ways to build out relationships. Yeah, I have no clue. I've never heard of that before. Ben Taylor says, hey, David, hope you're well. Do you know if there is a David Pakman fan club, official or unofficial? It's certainly not an official one. I think the fan club is just called you sign up at joinpacman.com. Alex Jones says, David, best investment ever. Okay, Alex Jones, I think, has now spent about $50 over the last few days just insulting Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II via Super Chat and claims it's a good investment. Leonardo M. says, what's your take on whether or not Trump supporters will change their stance on his crisis management and if it will affect poll numbers or election? I don't even pretend to have a prediction on that because as Donald Trump has bungled the response to the virus, his approval rating has gone up and more than half the country approves of how he's been handling this. So it's clearly I don't have the right lens through which to analyze this because Donald Trump's response has been horrifying. So I can't tell you what's going to happen. Lance Powers says, what do you make of Michael Levitt, a Nobel laureate and Stanford biophysicist, saying deaths are actually going to slow down this week? I hope that he is right. I hope that he is right. And I actually read, hold on, is that the Israeli guy? Yes, it is. Yes. Listen, his area of expertise is not infection, right? He works in a completely different, I think he's like a physicist or something like that. So when you say Nobel laureate, it's like, oh, it's a doctor. I hope he's right. I mean, listen, anybody who makes an optimistic prediction, I hope they're right, even if they're unqualified to make it, in the sense that I am always hoping for an improvement, but I don't know that he's the right guy for it. Jay Harper says OnlyFans is Twitter for porn. That's basically it. Okay. Hot Mustard Gas says OnlyFans is an adult site. Oh, all right. Fried Rice Official says, please unban me from your Twitch chat, Pepe Hands. I'm not involved in any of that. I'm not involved in that. I've opted out of that. Cesar Marin says, I was gay bashed in March of 2019 in Phoenix, and now Asian Americans are being targeted. Trump needs to go. He's to blame. I'm not in a position to comment specifically on that, but I've said before that Donald Trump has coalesced and catalyzed a lot of hate, a lot of hate. Let me say thank you to, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly, Jesse Pogodzinski. Jesse Pogodzinski is new member number 5 at joinpacman.com. Thanks, Jesse. Also want to say thank you to Cedric Cole, who is new member number 6 today at joinpacman.com. Cedric and Jesse, you guys are great. You guys are great people. Great people. Very, very strongly feel that. C. Bishop Davis says Trump won't really open the country back up, right? He's alluding to it. And, oh, hold on. Mike Pence is holding up his PowerPoint.
For anyone who has a vulnerable senior in your home, I love what Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx said not long ago, and that is to keep them safe, you should just conduct yourself. If you have someone in your home as a senior with a serious underlying health condition.
Yeah, so again, they're starting to set the table. They're setting the stage for letting it rip, so to speak, very, very soon. Zesty African says, what's your take on Pelosi's counter to the Republican bill? Why did she add bells and whistles? Yeah, Tim Pool sent me a couple messages this morning and said, you've got to see this 1,400-page thing that Democrats put together. I've not looked at it yet. I've been filming all morning. Now I'm doing the stream. Oh, God, they brought on Dr. Oz. Can you imagine? And I just haven't looked at it yet. I plan to look at it between today and tomorrow. Ron says it will take months, if not years, to retool factories to produce medical equipment. Why is this being discussed as a short-term solution? Yeah, so I have a segment today that I've already filmed. It'll be published later, where Donald Trump has started lying, saying GM and Ford are producing ventilators. Not only is it a lie, it's impossible. GM has said so compare. Trump says GM is making ventilators. Okay? GM says, we have finished a plan for how to obtain most but not all of the parts we would first need to get to start making ventilators. Okay? Trump, GM is making ventilators. GM, we're almost done with a plan to get some of the parts to at some point start manufacturing them, which will take some time. And at maximum capacity would be a few thousand a year. Right? Understand the imbalance there and what we're hearing from Trump versus what we're hearing from the people actually who have to do the work. Maury P says, David, I was a burner and going to abstain in the general election. COVID will get me to vote Biden. Thoughts on virus changing Democratic turnout? On today's broadcast show, and it'll be a YouTube clip, I address that specifically. So I'm trying to avoid doing duplicate stuff. But I'll have a clip out about that within a few hours. Thanks also to Crystal R, who sends a $5 super chat. Crystal, thank you very much. Very much appreciate that and appreciate your support. Is Dr. Oz talking to Pence right now?
Of dealing with the symptoms of coronavirus. We're making that clear across the country. As you know, and I'm sure the president will say this when he joins us in a bit, the president's very optimistic. He's very hopeful that some of these anecdotal results that we've seen around the country will prove out to be true. But I want to assure you, there's no barrier to access to chloroquine in this country. We're working to add to that supply, even as we speak.
Again, we don't know that chloroquine is something that everybody should be taking. There are some real problems in some people with the chloroquine stuff. So it's very risky to be talking about that. Alex Jones says, David, do you have any thoughts on Afro-pessimism? None whatsoever. Ben Busink says, are prediction markets for COVID cases useful? I don't know. You know, I've not actually seen, let's see, PredictWise COVID. Let's see. I've not seen any of it. Okay, I'm not seeing anything there. Predict It COVID. If somebody can tell me a prediction market where I could look at COVID stuff, I would be interested in looking at it, but I'm not seeing anything. If someone super chats me where there are COVID related prediction markets, I would check it out. Tyler Kozlowski says Newsom said Elon delivered 1,000 ventilators. Yeah, I don't believe Elon Musk manufactured them, right? Elon Musk, 1,000 ventilators. I think he just bought them. Let me take a look here. I have an article for us to take a look at. Elon Musk has delivered 1,000 ventilators to help California patients. California received these provided by Elon Musk. Heroic effort. Yeah, there's no indication. It seems like Elon Musk just procured these. Tesla factories. Right. We're working on ventilators, even though I think there will not be a shortage by the time we can make enough to matter. Yeah, so I think Elon Musk just bought those. Those are not ones that Tesla has manufactured. Okay, Jimmy Bignuts. Hey, Jimmy says, here's some coins, David. Keep it up. Thanks, Jimmy. Jackson says, what's your ideal support package? 1,000 a month, 2,000 a month, one big check. So I'm opting out of opining on this because I'm just not qualified to say. I know everybody has some hot take. I don't want to contribute to the disinformation. I think we need, respectable economists and financial forecasters, to the extent that financial forecasting is a thing, making the decisions. And once we have a package, believe me, I will analyze it and comment on it. Let me say thank you to Jacob Winning for getting subscription number 7 today at joinpacman.com. Jessica Harper is new member number 8 at joinpacman.com. You know, it's a remarkable thing. Shows like ours have overwhelmingly male audiences. This applies to, you know, the Sam Cedar Show, the Young Turks. It's a phenomenon that we've identified. We have overwhelmingly male audiences. During the COVID-19 crisis and the streams, the number of female members that have been signing up has been off the charts. And I don't know if it's just more people are home, and for whatever reason, the audience has drastically equalized, where it has gotten much closer to 50-50 male-female. We've never seen anything like this, and it's reflected in the membership signups. Also want to say thanks to Ryan Alston. Ryan is new member number 9 today at joinpacman.com. I would be interested in a hypothesis about why the female audience has increased so drastically during COVID-19. I don't have an answer. EOK says, thanks for your voice. It's very important. Thank you for your support. Ukarsh Vivek says, hey, David, thoughts on Andrew Cuomo's conference today? Again, I have not seen it. I've been producing today's show so that we could stream this town hall. So I've not seen any conferences today. Kelly D says, do you think the Chinese government will be asked to answer about why they waited so long before telling the world about what was happening? I mean, at some point, hopefully. Right now, it's not hugely relevant to figuring out next steps. But yes, I would love to get answers for sure. Tyler and the Residents says, Dr. Oz has many blind followers that listen to his every word. If he puts out good advice, it might be the best way to influence those people. What are your thoughts? Yes, if he puts out good advice. He was repeating some of the unsubstantiated chloroquine stuff just a couple days ago. So that's a big if. Isaac Sosa says, I'm not gay, but I would be in a non-sexual bromance with David. Oh, that's interesting. And very interesting, Isaac. Alex Jones says, are you always in favor of legalized abortions? I sort of reject the premise, because usually that type of question is opening the door to starting to talk about late term and things that are very, very, very rare. And so I sort of reject the framing of the question. I believe that abortion is a legal medical procedure like many, many others, about which decisions should be made by medical professionals and the people involved in the procedure. Ian says, bring back morality with motomedy. Yeah, I'm actually having a Google Hangout later today with Lewis and a couple other of our elementary and high school friends. And I was thinking I would pull Lewis into a stream soon, maybe like a nighttime stream. I mean, Lewis isn't doing anything, but as you all know, Lewis's schedule is very, very particular, and I might be able to pull him into a stream soon. But if you're wondering about this, we used to do a segment called Morality with Motomedy. Maybe I can even find one as we wait here, where our old producer would answer moral dilemmas. And it was usually pretty funny, Morality with Motomedy, because a lot of his takes were very understated. Let's see a really old one. Okay, here's one just for kicks, okay? We're just doing this while we wait. This is an old Morality with Motomedy episode. Oh, oops. We got an ad playing here. Excuse me. Apologies for that.
Right.
Oh, we got a second ad. Apologies. Very, very much apologizing here. It is time for our second attempt at Morality with Motomedy. Lewis, how would you evaluate the reaction to your moral judgment brought forth in the first new section of Morality with Motomedy, if that could be any less clear?
I think people were outraged.
Right. To put it lightly, I believe that they were. Okay, here's today's Morality with Motomedy. You have a situation with limited medical resources. Hey, by the way, how relevant is this question today? What is the ethical way to decide who to treat first? Do we treat politicians or celebrities? Do we go youngest to oldest? Is it based on income? Is it based on number of children that would be left without a parent if the person who needs medical care were to die? Lewis, I turn it over to you. How do you evaluate in a system of limited medical resources, who do you treat first?
I think it's almost easier to work backwards here. and say, who will you be treating? Who is last on the list?
Okay.
You know, when I envision this scenario, I'm thinking of some dystopic, post-apocalyptic setting where,
In which we now find ourselves.
you know what I'm talking about here. You've seen it in movies, you've read it in books. Medical supplies are very limited,
Right.
and you're faced with this quandary here.
I randomly picked this, and it is literally what we're trying to figure out today.
So I think that most people would agree with me that based on age and health, this is what you look at first, right? So if someone, let's say, has a terminal illness, it's known that they have a terminal illness, and regardless of their age or, okay, maybe first you would evaluate how long they have and how much of how useful they are to you, your society, your group, whatever.
Utilitarian approach.
Well, I think you have to do that. So you would say, okay, this person maybe has a month to live. Maybe it doesn't make sense to use those medical supplies and resources on this person, regardless of their age, usefulness, strength, intellect, whatever.
Okay. Wow.
And then, of course, you have the very old people that are with you, the elderly. If you can use those resources to save someone who is very young and has a long life ahead of them, as opposed to someone who is maybe only has a few years or a decade.
Okay, people don't like the 1.25x. I'll go back to normal. Apologies.
Let's say something like that. Maybe it makes more sense to use those resources on the younger person.
In other words, by saving younger people, you are sort of maximizing the number of life years that you are providing via those services. If you have 10 10-year-olds and 10 90-year-olds, if you save the 10 90-year-olds, you
Hey
maybe...
guys, I don't think I want to do this right now because we did this like sort of as a goof years ago, and it's kind of what we're dealing with now, and it's bumming me out. So I'm gonna get away from that. I apologize, but I'm gonna get away from that for now because it's feeling a little too real. I don't know if anybody else agrees. Let me say thanks to Harry Sharma, who is new member number 10 today at joinpacman.com. Thank you so much, Harry. I so appreciate your support. I also want to say thank you and welcome to Lorraine Strickland. Lorraine Strickland is new member number 11 today at joinpacman.com. Remember that we have a goal of 25 new members. You can save 66% with the coupon code 2020 now. If you're just joining us on YouTube, we are waiting for Donald Trump to come out for this Fox News virtual town hall. Please remember to hit like and subscribe. We've had 25,000 people come through the stream today, and only 690 have liked the stream. Can you imagine that? It is almost irresponsible or something. I don't know. But in any case, like the stream and make sure to hit that subscribe button because it does a lot for us. There we go. 738. The numbers are now starting to climb. 840. Wow. We have almost viral growth of likes. 961. I love it. I love it. Appreciate everybody who's been participating in the streams. 1K, we made it. Okay, Slurk. Slurk says, what software do you use for overlays and such? I'm using Streamlabs OBS. Streamlabs OBS. And then I have a little text file. It's a JavaScript thing where I can, so when somebody signs up, like we have 11 now, I can change it to, 111. Boom. And it fills up. We'll go back to 11. I can also make it, 11 of a lot. Whoa, that's not quite so good. But we're at 11 of 25. And then I think I can also, let's see, can I change it to like 11 of 25 Genius members? Yeah, look at that. 11 of 25 Genius members. Maybe I'll just put website members. Maybe that's clearer. 11 of 25 website members. Which might just make it more obvious what we're tracking there. I like it. I like it. Okay. Alex Jones says, explain your opposition to the public option. I'm not opposed to it. It's just not the best thing. The public option would basically just reduce premiums by 7 to 8%, according to the best studies I've seen. That's less than the yearly increase. So the public option essentially buys us a year. It's just not nearly enough. I'm not opposed to it. It's better than what we have. If the options are what we have or what we have plus the public option, I take the public option. That's it. Tyler Kozlowski says, you were right. I found this. Musk said on Twitter that China had an oversupply, so we bought 1,255 FDA-approved ResMed, Philips, and Medtronic ventilators on Friday night and airshipped them to Los Angeles. Yes, indeed. Allison Jeffrey says, I am a long-time female listener. Perhaps we're just quiet. I hope it's that rather than females being less interested in politics. Love your show. Here is Donald Trump walking out for the start of the town hall. Let's listen.
I'm grateful for your time.
And we need him to keep it coming.
And we're about to bring in the president. President Trump is heading over now. He'll answer your questions as well for the next hour. Our virtual town hall continues with the vice president and now President Trump next.
Okay, looks like they're taking a little break before they start. Let's see here. Other super chats. Is it better for Dems to just pass a bill so less people lose their jobs? My work is falling apart. Something is going to have to be passed soon. There's no doubt about that. Crystal says, David, please look into methylene blue. I will look into it. I don't have any idea what it is. And methylene blue, medication and dye used to treat methoglobin levels greater than 30%. Okay, I will check it out. Blue Roy says an Arizona man died and wife in ICU for ingesting an aquarium cleaner because it contained chloroquine. Yep, we discussed it today on the show. Clip coming out soon. Carpe Donnelly says it's amazing that we had a serious presidential candidate outline verbatim how to fund, implement, and deploy a UBI that could fundamentally change the game, and politicians just ignore it categorically. It is depressing. It is very, very depressing. Let me say thank you and welcome to Kara Holt, who is new member number 12 today. Very much appreciate that. Kara, thank you. Join Kara by grabbing a membership at joinpacman.com. Ben Busink says COVID prediction market, Google Hypermind COVID-19. Hypermind COVID-19. Let's take a look here. See what people are kind of putting their money on, so to speak. At the end of March, how many cases will have been confirmed? Most people say between 500,000 and 1 million. Yeah, that's almost certainly going to be the case. We are at 400,000 right now with 6.5 days to go. I think it will be between 500,000 and 1 million. That seems correct. I guess there's an entire coronavirus section. Cases confirmed. How many will be confirmed in the U.S.? Over 100,000. That's interesting. Could be, and that very well may be. Yeah, let's look at that later because that is very interesting. We don't want to miss the town hall, but I'm going to check that out. Mike Valverde says, how do I catch your full show now that I have a membership? Log in on our website, click on member content 2020. Every day we post the full commercial-free show and the members-only bonus show there. Very, very easy to do. Let me also say thank you to Edward Stewart, who is new member number 13 today at joinpacman.com. Edward, thank you. Very much appreciate it. Internet Connoisseur says, thank you, Pacman, for working and your sourced info. Cassie Winters has subscribed on YouTube. Walker Anderson says, what's the reason you blocked my other account for super chatting? We've never blocked anyone from super chatting. I don't even know that that's possible. We've never done it. And I could not answer, but we've not, people get these ideas that things are, a lot of times we have no idea what's going on. I have not blocked anybody from super chatting. Internet Connoisseur is a new member. Mike Baylog says Florida is in deep shit and there's no toilet paper. Proverbially, metaphorically, and literally, it sounds like. All right, let's get to Trump's town hall. I'm going to refill my water and then be here with all of you guys watching myself.
Members of his coronavirus task force. I'm Bill Hemmer at the Rose Garden here at the White House. Harris?
And I'm Harris Faulkner in New York. The administration's 15-day plan, you saw the vice president holding that up several times. The plan is to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the United States. And it's set to expire in less than a week from today. Now President Trump and his task force are plotting the way forward for all the nation.
In the next hour, joining us to talk about all that, President Trump, and still with us, Vice President Mike Pence. the White House Coronavirus Response Coordinator, Dr. Deborah Birx, and the Surgeon General, Dr. Jerome Adams. And welcome and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Bill.
Unusual circumstances where you're trying to communicate with the American people. We're trying to maybe bring the American people a little closer to you and get some answers.
That's true.
To you, Mr. President, when was the moment that you thought, we got to move on this?
Well, I think when I started seeing and reading about China and seeing what was going on in China, Wuhan and specifically, it seemed to come mostly out of there, that area, the province. And when I saw that and I saw the kind of death they were, talking about on television, in the papers, and I started reading a lot about it. And really, when I had to make a decision, do I stop people from China and specifically that area, but from China to come into the country? And everybody was against it. Almost everybody, I would say, was just absolutely against it. We've never done it before. We never made a decision like that.
Did somebody come to you with a bit of information, a piece of data? Was it a world leader? Was it a member of your own
It
team?
was instinct.
What was it?
We had a large group of people right behind me in the Oval Office. And I consulted with Mike, but we made a decision. I made a decision to close off to China. That was weeks early. And honestly, I took a lot of heat. Sleepy Joe Biden said it's xenophobic. I don't know if he knows what that means, but that's okay. He said it's racist, what I did. Thousands and thousands of more people, probably tens of thousands, would be dead right now if I didn't make that decision. And I must say, doctors, nobody wanted to make that decision at the time. It was very, very early. Call it luck or call it talent, it doesn't matter. We made a great decision. I took a lot of heat from China. They weren't happy with it. Now they understand it. They've really, we're doing just fine, but they were not happy with it. I took a lot of heat from a lot of people.
Bring the conversation to present day. In the past day and a half, you got a lot of attention for this. A tweet that I think went out late at night. You said we cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself.
I really didn't get.
So you start to look at this 15-day period, which will come to us. Day 15 is next Monday today, arguably day 9. What are you trying to gauge as to how you can open the country back up again?
Yes.
When you say I took a lot of heat for that, essentially, I really didn't. I mean, a lot of people agree with me. Our country is not supposed to be, it's not built to shut down. Our people are full of vim and vigor and energy. They don't want to be locked into a house or an apartment or some space. It's not for our country. We're not built that way. And I said, I don't want the cure to be worse than the problem
Let's
itself.
watch
the
the
problem
stock
being
market during
obviously
this.
the problem. And, you can destroy a country this way by closing it down, where it literally goes from being the most prosperous. I mean, we had the best economy in the history of our country 3 weeks ago. And then all of a sudden, we're supposed to shut it down. And then we're supposed to pay people not to go to work. We never had that. We used to pay people to go to work when we had.
But this is a government
problem.
order to go ahead and stay home. It's tricky, though, when you try and turn the faucet back on.
It's very tricky.
New York could be different from
It is.
Utah. Louisiana could be different from Arizona. So how do you go about making that decision?
Well, you have to make the decision. Look, we lose thousands. I brought some numbers here. We lose thousands and thousands of people a year to the flu.
Here we go with that.
Turn the country off. I mean, every year. Now, when I heard the number, we average
The flu's not overwhelming the ICUs.
37,000 people a year. Can you believe that? And actually, this year we're having a bad flu season. But we lose thousands of people a year to the flu. We never turned the country off. We lose much more than that to automobile accidents. We didn't call up the automobile companies and say, stop making cars.
Remember,
We don't want-
automobile accidents are not rising exponentially in the United States, while other countries are seeing declines because of the changes they've made.
And honestly, the American people have learned. We've all learned together between the shaking of the hands and the washing of the hands. Well, I used to wash my hands, and I always wash my hands a lot. I never was a big believer in shaking hands. Once I become a politician, you shake hands and you get a little bit used to it. Like, immediately when I see you, I sort of apologize that I'm not shaking your hand.
We
if you don't
exchange
mind.
air elbows, which seems
I
to be
don't
the
even like
things that.
I never like to see that, actually. But
Yeah, right now on Capitol Hill, you've got members of the Senate debating a $2 trillion bill.
Yeah, more than that.
Did you think that it blows away the ability for us to imagine that they could pass legislation in excess of $2 trillion. Now, who knows what's behind the curtain there? Who knows what is stacked into $2 trillion? How much concern do you have
Well, we
that
canceled the
you
deal
could
last
be
night.
facing criticism that President Obama faced in 2009
Well, we
about
canceled-
sweetheart deals for certain companies, as Democrats would argue?
I canceled the deal last night. I said, I'm not going to sign that deal because Nancy Pelosi came in and put a lot of things in the deal that had nothing to do with the workers, that had to do with an agenda that they've been trying to get passed for 10 years. And I came in, I told Mike, I told a lot of people, there's no way I'm signing that deal. I was getting calls from John Kennedy, from Ben Sass, from many, many people, Lindsay. I was getting calls from a lot of different people saying this deal, Tom Cotton, this deal is terrible, what they've done. They took a deal, you know, we almost had a deal the day before, and it was between Schumer and Mitch, and it was really a good, solid deal. All of a sudden, they start throwing all of the little Green New Deal stuff in, right? And the boardrooms, what they look
Understand
like.
that Democrats are throwing a lot of BS in that's unrelated, but they want it to be a slush fund for Steven Mnuchin to give money to companies Trump likes. It's sick on both sides, and it's not good for Americans.
Windmills, they killed the birds and ruined the real estate, right? A lot of problems. I mean, a lot of problems. And I said, I'm not signing this
With
deal.
$2 trillion.
Now they've
It's hard to
renegotiated.
avoid some of those
you'll always have-
trapdoors, you could
Yeah,
argue.
But we have great things for not only companies, forget the companies. The companies are nothing other than they are an employer of thousands and thousands of people, and they pay them very well. We want to protect our workers. I want to protect our workers. Workers first. But you have to protect companies like Boeing. They had a real bad year, let's face it, with the problems, and they were in trouble before this, and then all of a sudden this happened.
Market down almost a
We can't
point
lose
since
a
Trump's-
Boeing,
Tru-
and
since
we
Trump
can't lose
started
some of these
speaking.
companies, and companies, frankly, Bill, that were solid as like AAA companies, because of what's happened over the last couple of weeks, they go from AAA to being like they could use a hand.
Tough time.
We can't, right? We can't lose those companies. If we lose those companies, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of jobs, millions of jobs. The faster we go back, the better it's going to be. We have a pent-up energy that's going to be unbelievable. We're going to bring it back fast. I really believe that.
I've got a lot more questions, and so does my colleague Harris Faulkner. I'll allow her to rejoin the
She's
conversation now. Harris.
Do I have an earplug here? I don't know.
I'll help you out.
If
with
I could
that.
do that.
Go ahead, Harris.
Hello,
I'll
Mr.
relay and
President.
translate.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. President.
Oh,
so
boy.
good to see you today. This will be a little bit to relay. I understand you guys are going back and forth on the economy and employers, but more than 66% of people are employed by small businesses. The VP talked a little bit about this. We hear you dropping big companies' names. The question here is,
This is awkward.
how do you shore up both as you look forward?
Yeah. The question's a good one, and it's pointed. You're talking about Boeing, and yet you've got, what, 2/3 of American businesses are small businesses.
Right.
And you think about what they're trying to do in terms of adjusting to this new reality that's been thrown on them. What will you do?
Is
for
Hemmer
small
going to
business?
soften
Well,
every
first of all, I
question?
have to say that Harris is one of my favorite people.
Right.
And I didn't hear a word she said, and I was hoping it wasn't too devastating a question. But she is a fantastic person. I have to say that, okay? Now that I've said it, because I can't hear Harris. But
Right.
no, the bill is very much focused on the small business person. It's very much focused on small companies, including restaurants and all sorts of small companies. And what people don't realize, you know, you're talking about these massive, we have the greatest companies in the world. You add them all up, and the small businesses are just about equal in size to these massive companies, of which we have many also. It's the engine of our country, small business. This bill is absolutely aimed at the small business and the worker and the workers of those small businesses and the owners. The owners are going to need help. They're going to need some loans. They're going to need things, and we're going to be able to take care of them because we don't want those small businesses to go out of business, nor do
Right.
we want the big businesses to go out of business.
When they said, Mr. President, we got to shut this down, how hard did you push back?
Well, I'll tell you, I never heard of such a thing. We've had flus where we lose 36,000.
Oh, the
We've
flu
lost
again.
as many, I guess, as 78,000 people in 1 year. And they came in and they said to me, sir, we're going to have to close the country. I said, what are you talking about? Well, we have a virus. It's coming in. And I knew that. And I made the early decision with China.
Just
So I really-
remember, guys, the flu rises and falls to a different degree seasonally, we're dealing with something that, based on our actions, is growing exponentially in coronavirus.
Never happened before. You're saying, I said, are you serious about this? We are going to take this country that's fully employed, where we have 160 million people working, and you're telling me we have to close it, and people are going to go out of business, and they're going to go bankrupt, and they're not going to have jobs? What are we talking about here? Just don't forget, this has never been done. We've had flus before. We've had viruses before. So this is something new. And this is why I say we have to, I gave it 2 weeks, and you know, I guess by Monday or Tuesday, it's about 2 weeks, and we'll assess at that time, and we'll give it some more time if we need a little more time. But we have to open this country up.
When they came to you and had that conversation with you, how long did it take you to accept that new reality?
Well, look, I accept things. I understand things very quickly. I mean, I understood exactly what they were saying. But we can socially distance ourselves and go to work, and you'll have to work a little bit harder. You can clean your hands 5 times more than you used to. You don't have to shake hands anymore with people. That might be something good coming out of this. Although
That didn't work
you,
for
as a
2 weeks.
politician, it's a lot warmer when you walk into a crowd and you're shaking a lot of people's hands. You love those people.
I'd agree with you.
They
on
love
that.
me and I love them, you know, but it is a little bit colder. But
So many people
you
are
won't
going to
be
die.
shaking hands for at least a while, and things will happen. But we have to put the country to work. Look, you're going to lose a number of people to the flu,
Right.
but you're going to lose more people by putting a country into a massive recession or depression. You're going to lose people.
How?
You're going to have suicides by the thousands. You're going to have all sorts of things happen. You're going to have instability. You can't just come in and say, let's close up the United States of America, the biggest, the most successful country in the world by far. You know, when I came in, when I was elected, and you knew this number, China was going to overtake us in the year 2019. It wasn't even close. We went way up, and they didn't. We've done great. They pay us a fortune in tariffs and everything else.
No,
and
we
yet
pay
have
the
a good
tariffs.
relationship
He still
with
doesn't
them.
know how
We
tariffs
just
work.
signed a trade deal. But we're the number one in the world by far. And now,
Number one
a
at
few
what?
people walk into the Oval Office and say, sir, we have to close up the country.
And
I said,
that,
what are you,
Mr.
I said, what are you
and
talking
that,
about?
Mr. President, must have been a very difficult thing to accept.
One of
Look
the
at
most-
Hemmer trying to humanize him, and Trump just rattles insanity.
Because I knew that when you do it, as soon as you do it, you're going to drop. I mean, they're talking about 20 or 25 points of GDP. Nobody's ever heard of 25 points. If we went down a point, that's a big deal. Now, all of a sudden, you're basically turning off the country. I said, this has never been done before. What are you talking about? But we understand it. You have hot spots. But we've had hot spots before. We've had horrible flus. I mean, think of it. We average 36,000 people. Death. I'm not talking about cases. I'm talking about death. 36,000 deaths a year. People die, 36 from the flu. But we've never closed down the country for the flu. So you say to yourself, what is this all about? Now,
How did you?
it's never been done.
How did you process that?
Third
Not
attempt.
good. I wasn't happy about it. And I also knew that I had to do it because, look, with Turkey, I give this as an example, and Syria. I said, sign a deal with the Kurds, make peace. Erdogan, he didn't want to. He's a man who loves Turkey.
This is
And I have a very
unrelated.
good relation. I said, sign a deal. He didn't really want to. The Kurds didn't really want to. And it went on, you know, the so-called safe zone recently, a few months ago. I said, sign a deal. Do me a favor, sign a deal. Get it done. They didn't really want to. All of a sudden, they start fighting. And it was vicious, and other countries got involved. Now I say, let's sign a deal. They said, okay, we'll sign a deal. We needed a period because I don't think, if I would have not
What is
done
he
it,
talking about?
we would have been unbelievably criticized for not doing it, but it's never been done before.
One more.
Bill, somehow the word got out that this is the thing we're supposed to be doing. Now, we've had some really bad epidemics.
What's with
and
this voice?
Other things. I mean, we're going this pandemic, but we've had bad epidemics. I'm sure they could have been called pandemics. But we never did anything like this before. But I had to do it. It's been very painful
We're screwed.
for our country. and very destabilizing for our country. And we have to go back to work much sooner than people thought. And people can go back to work, and they can also practice good judgment.
One last question, then we'll get back to our viewers here, too. A month ago, the CDC had an initial test that failed. At that moment, late February, you said it's perfect, and it wasn't perfect. So what happened there
Nasty
in the early
question.
stages
Well, what I said
in
is-
late February?
What I said is perfect was my conversation with the head of the Ukraine. That's what I really said is perfect. Okay, that was another whole scandal nonsense, a total, witch hunt. But this one is a much different thing.
Resign.
We had other administrations, not just the last one, they built up a platform. They built up a test. But the test was no good. It didn't handle large numbers of people. It was okay for a very small group, but not for a large group. So we had to
then,
break it down.
Did the CDC screw up, or did you screw
No,
up?
we did not screw up.
Where did this
And
go
I don't think
wrong?
CDC screwed up either. They had a test that would have worked for a small group of people. In other words, for a normal problem. I don't think anybody could have, in all fairness to CDC, and this is a big government agency, and they're very good people in there, but nobody ever expected a thing like this. Nobody would say that millions and millions of people would have been tested. So what we did is we broke that egg, we broke that system, and we've created a new system that now we're doing unbelievably big numbers, and it's set for the future should we ever need it again.
We're
I hope
doing
we
big
don't need
numbers.
it again.
Thank you for your time. We're going to bring the others in as well in a moment. Thank you for being patient. We will get to you. We have so many questions,
boy.
not only from our network, but from millions of people all across the country. So your questions in a moment here as we continue live in the Rose Garden at the White House with the president and his task force in Washington.
Guys, we're seriously screwed with this guy. No Fauci, first of all. They figured out Deborah Birx will sort of do Trump's bidding. The degree to which we are screwed with this guy is shocking. Let me say a huge thank you to Grand Alien for cheering 10,000 bits on Twitch. Thanks to Greatonby, as well as Gold Public, Blue Horseshoe, and Water Girl, all of whom have grabbed Twitch subscriptions. We're all trying to deal with the dystopia together. Let me say thank you to Annunziata Cole, who is new member number 14 today at joinpacman.com. Camden Margulies is new member number 15 today. Annalie Klein is new member number 16. Caitlin Haney, hey Caitlin, Caitlin's new member number 17 today. Aaron Allen is new member number 18, and really appreciate everybody's support. A quick look at the super chats. Love Inspired says, is he freaking serious? He's absolutely deranged. Yes, we are in the dystopia. You know, I'm reading The Testaments, which is the sequel to Handmaid's Tale by the incomparable Margaret Atwood. And reading dystopian fiction has changed because I prefer it when it's only fiction. And it's not only fiction at this point. Every day we're presented with the real dystopia in which we are living. Lonnie Kratz says, I'm glad I no longer live in the U.S., but my family does, and I am deeply concerned. Yeah, I mean, we've got idiots. Jackson says we're all going to die. Amy Guerra says 140 deaths in the last 24 hours. Fox News shows 14. Info Minimal says quarantine life is sloth living like Orange Cassidy. Essential asks, are accounts linked YouTube and davidpacman.com? No, all of these, if you're a YouTube member, it has nothing to do with being a member on my website. These are all totally different, unrelated, unconnected systems. Somari MCF says, where is Dr. Fauci? Speechless from Trump's medical knowledge and the great job he's doing. Yeah, this is the worst. This format is even worse than the daily press briefings. It's crazy. Tyler Sauter asks, thoughts on 21 million closed wireless accounts in CN? I don't know anything about that, so I wouldn't be able to comment. MK Crisp says, my uncle is currently on a ventilator in London with COVID. Britain's response has been slow and poor. People suffering. Stay indoors, people. I'm really sorry to hear that. And yeah, a lot of responses have not been good. Bree says, I think the algorithm does not help promote your audience. I'm a woman and I've subscribed to support you as you are the best commentator around. Well, we need to mold the algorithm like a lump of clay And the best way to do it is, if you're watching on YouTube, hit like and hit subscribe, because if people watch the stream and they say, wow, this is triggering me to like and subscribe, YouTube believes we should promote this because there's a high like and subscribe ratio. That's why it matters. Back to the delusions.
Back to our Fox News virtual town hall with President Trump and his coronavirus task force. Excited to finally get to be able to talk one-on-one with him now. We got our tech problems worked out. I want to first ask you, Mr. President, about the idea of the political division that's going on Capitol Hill. You're talking about these bills, this phase 1, 2, and 3 of the stimulus bill, like they're going to fix so much with the economy, and people are literally fighting like cats. I mean, what can you do to bring them together?
Well, I think they're actually coming together. We had a bill that was done the other night, and then all of a sudden somebody else injected herself in, and we didn't have anything that was even remotely signable. But now I hear just from a few minutes ago that they're doing well, and it's for the workers, it's for the people of the country, and I hear they're doing pretty well, so we'll see how it comes out. But it should have been, well, it's like I watched Governor Cuomo, and he was very nice. We're building them hospitals, we're building them medical centers, and he was complaining about...
The only thing Trump cares about is whether governors are being nice to him rather than whether we're dealing with the crisis.
He's talking about the ventilators, but he should have ordered the ventilators, and he had a choice, he had a chance, because right here, I just got this out, that he refused to order 15,000 ventilators. I'll show this to Bill, but take a look at that, Bill. What does that say?
Is this social distancing here?
This says New York Governor Cuomo rejected buying recommended 16,000 ventilators in 2015 for a pandemic. Established death panels and lotteries instead.
Yeah, he put in death panels.
He
there
had
you
a
go.
chance to buy in 2015 16,000 ventilators at a very low price, and he turned it down. I'm not blaming him or anything else.
This guy shouldn't be running a
talking
preschool,
about
guys.
us. He's supposed to be buying his own ventilators. We're going to help. But, you know, if you think about Governor Cuomo, we're building him 4 hospitals. We're building him 4 medical centers. We're working very, very hard for the people of New York. We're working along with him. And then I watch him on the show complaining. And he had 16,000 ventilators that he could have had at a great price, and he didn't buy them.
Yeah, and I hear you going back and forth, and Governor Cuomo has talked in recent days that you regularly talk and have a good relationship. And so we will follow the news as you're bringing it to us right there in the Rose Garden. I want to get to a viewer because the people's voice is so huge right now and always, Mr. President. Joyce submitted a question from Facebook about the stimulus checks. Let's watch, and I want to get your reaction.
I am fortunate I can continue to work. I can telecommute. There are people who are losing jobs. They're losing an entire income for a household. And rather than receive a check, I would just like to pay it forward and have the government pass mine on to someone else.
Wow, is that great? Well,
you got to pass something before anybody can pass their check to somebody else.
Thank you very much, Joyce. I'll tell you what, that's great. I wish we had more people like Joyce, I'll tell you. But, you know, it's going to be a substantial amount of money, around $3,000 for a family of 4. And assuming it all gets done, assuming we can get the Democrats to sign it. But it'll be great. But, Joyce, I think that's such a nice gesture. Really, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, and you just said, right when you and I began talking a few minutes ago, that, you know, the juggernaut might be moving on Capitol Hill to try to push toward that stimulus bill. So we'll be watching for that. You know, Mr. President, I'm watching the Dow as you have been talking, and formerly the Vice President. It's up by more than 1,500 points.
But down a
what
point
do you
since
watch
Trump
for
started.
each day? I mean, are you keeping your eye on that? Is it companies calling you, small and large? Like, what is your barometer that, things are in trouble or things are doing better?
Well, I think the Dow was helped by the fact that there were theories that we were going to stay out for 4 or 5 months, and you can't do that. You destroy our country if you did a thing like that. And we're going to be opening relatively soon. Our time comes up.
Better question would be, Mr. President, the Dow immediately dropped when you started speaking today. Why do you think that is?
It opened very soon. I think that was a big reason it's gone up. I also think that the fact that the Senate and the House, we seem to be getting along as much as you can get along. We seem to be getting along now on a on a bill. I think that maybe had even less of an impact than the fact that we're opening up this incredible country, because we have to do that. I'd love to have it open by Easter. Okay, I would love to have it open by Easter. I will tell you that right now. I would love to have that. It's such an important day for other reasons, but I'll make it an important day for this too. I would love to have the country opened up and just raring to go by Easter.
At least that's not tomorrow.
April 12th. So we will watch and see what happens. I'm going to toss it back to my cohort, Bill.
Thank you, Harris. That would be a great American resurrection 2.5+ weeks from now.
And it will lead to hundreds
Dr.
of
Birx,
thousands of
a series
deaths.
of questions on the medical front here. I want to go to Allison from Indiana, appropriately so, Mr. Vice President, who has a question by way of Facebook about possible mutation. Watch.
My question is this: if you were to get the coronavirus, can it mutate, and can you get it again?
Dr. Birx?
So that's a great question, and a very smart question, because it's an RNA virus. It can mutate, and it constantly mutates. But what has been pretty good about the coronaviruses in general is they keep their structural pieces very similar. What do I mean by that? There's the outer coat, the envelope, and the inside part of the virus has stayed very constant. It's even very similar to SARS, which we haven't seen since 2003. And so what has been picked for sites, both for the vaccine and for monoclonal antibodies, are very much those constant sites. And we believe that anybody who becomes positive and makes effective antibody, because there are some people who can't make as good of antibody as others, but if you make effective antibody, you shouldn't get reinfected.
The way it was described to me, and correct the medical positioning of this question, but the virus is trying to figure out a way to survive. And that's where it moves around and it mutates. Now, in Singapore, there was a headline earlier today suggesting a possible second wave in that island nation. How do you gauge that?
Well, remember in Singapore, they took the president's guidelines and they executed them very early because they could see China next door.
Yeah, before the
so
president even mentioned them.
And they implemented those guidelines. So very few people became infected in Singapore. Because so few people have been infected, you don't have what they call herd immunity. And so until we get through this current pandemic, if it has seasonality, which we hope and believe it could, if it gets through this current season, it will be in everybody's best interest
Guys,
to do
it's really sad that Fauci's gone after making like 2 critical comments about Trump, and now Birx is here, and she's just completely fallen in line with Trump.
Healthcare providers can get a shot potentially that will protect them. We would call it pre-exposure prophylaxis. All of those things are being worked on to prepare us for the next season. We're focused today on what we need today and to get through this current epidemic. And then we're also getting prepared in case it comes back in the fall, or in case it comes back in the fall of 2021 when we'd have a vaccine.
I'm going to bring in the Surgeon General on this, and to both of you. I've been listening to you very carefully for weeks now, and what you've said is we want to be the model of South Korea. Well, South Korea has flattened the curve, to borrow a phrase, and their death rate is about 1.2%. This morning here in the U.S., our death rate was right around that same mark, 1.3%. To the Surgeon General, what does that tell you, or how much do you consider the death rate here at home when we try and make decisions for ourselves?
Well, thank you for that, Bill. I think there are a couple of important things for the American people to remember. The first one
is that
when you look at the data here in the United States, of all the people who we've tested so far, only about 90% of those, well, 90% of those folks do not have the coronavirus.
Irrelevant.
They test negative. So most people, even when they have cold and flu symptoms, do not have coronavirus, number one. Number two, 98, 99% of people are recovering. So people need to understand that, yes,
this was not what was asked.
Get coronavirus in many communities across America, but that most of them will recover. That's very important for people to understand. And beyond that, we're trying to help people understand the importance of stopping the spread. And the president, when he 9 days ago listened to his health providers, his health consultants, he said, what do we need to do right now? And we said we need to lean into this next 2 weeks to stop the spread, and then we need to reassess. And one thing I can tell you for certain is that I've been on the task force for 3 weeks, and the president listens to Tony Fauci. He listens to Dr. Birx. He listens when I, or Dr. Carson, or Dr. Hahn, or Dr. Redfield speak up. And he also listens to the governors. And so we will assess at the end of the 14 days, and we'll figure out the most appropriate thing to do. And based on my experience in the task force so far, the president will make an appropriate decision based on all the data.
Thank you for that answer. Is everything cool with you and Dr. Fauci? He was not
absolutely.
there. He wasn't there last night for the briefing. He's not here today.
Because he has other things to do. No, we get along very well.
Your relationship's good?
I think it's been very good. You would have heard about it if it wasn't. I mean,
We have.
Every time he's not at a meeting, and sometimes other people too. They said, "Why isn't Dr. Birx at a meeting? Is there a problem?" And I said, "Deborah, could you please come to the meeting? Do you mind?" Because no, I respect all of these people. These are great people.
These are crisis
Deborah
actors.
is extraordinary.
To borrow a term.
And Tony's extraordinary. I get along with all of them. But if there's, they have other things to do. And yesterday we weren't really talking about what he's an expert on. We were talking about other things, a lot of other things. And, I don't think they should be at every news conference.
You're good. That's the point.
Yeah, we're fine. We're fine.
Dr. Birx, early on you said the massive amount of testing in South Korea, 96% to the Surgeon General's point, 96% came back negative. I think that's an important point to convey again to the American people.
How so?
Noah from Maryland has a question now. His question is about healthcare workers on the front lines of this pandemic.
Now, my mother is a nurse. She works in the healthcare field. What do you and your team plan to do to help healthcare workers that are putting themselves at risk every single day as a result of the coronavirus?
Kind of a weird
Excellent
video.
question. Dr. Birx, you want to take that?
Yeah, I love that question because my mother's a nurse. She's 91 now, so she's not practicing. But I think we have to remember in majority of hospitals and in majority of places, it is the nurse that are the front lines. They're the ones working every moment with the patients to ensure that they do well. They're the ones at the bedside. They're the ones providing comfort. They're the ones providing the medical interventions. And they are our first priority. It is why we've worked so hard to get the protective, personal protective equipment out there. But I think what we didn't often talk about is we're really, with the changing guidelines for testing, that is going to free up all of that personal and protective devices that were being utilized for testing back into the hospitals and the clinics for our nurses and doctors. And that's going to make millions of more masks and PPE, as we call it, available to the hospital workers who need it the most, because now people can self-test.
And Bill, can I jump in on that really quickly? I want people to know that I'm a still practicing anesthesiologist at Walter Reed. The vice president and I, we first met during Ebola. And I went into the hospital. I put on PPE. I know how scary it is even when you have the proper equipment to deal with an infectious disease. And I'm getting texts, phone calls, messages from people all across the country. And I want healthcare workers of America to know we are fighting for you each and every day to make sure you get what you need from the stockpile, to make sure you get what you need from manufacturers across America, to make sure you're getting decreased demand, which is why we put out our new guidelines on elective surgeries. Because it's not just about increasing the supply. We aren't going to supply our way out of this problem, as important as supply is.
Correct.
We need to also lower demand by decreasing unnecessary usage of PPE. And a game changer that just came out just this week was the new FDA self-swabs. And the vice president and the president have talked about that. That will utilize less PPE. So we're working on making sure supply gets where it needs to, and FEMA's doing a great job of that, but lowering demand.
How can someone watching this right now acquire a self-test?
Or feel good at all about
right
your
now,
leadership?
the FDA is making that more available. We've seen testing increase, and real numbers, when you look at last week from Monday to Friday, the amount of testing increased tenfold. So we're seeing testing increase. The concern is that it's actually using up more PPE, which is why we want to prioritize testing for the people who are most in need, the healthcare workers, the people who are vulnerable, and why we're pushing. The FDA has lowered barriers like none other to make sure we can get these new testing modalities available that use less PPE and do more tests.
Thank you for that. Back to Harris now with another question. Harris.
All right. Actually, you know what? I want to stay on this home testing kit topic for just a second with Dr. Birx. You know, the home test, is there a place where people check a box and say I'm positive or not? How are you going to keep up with people who test themselves? And you need that information, Dr. Birx, to know where the clusters are in the country.
The testers need to be doing
it.
Great. So it's not a home test, it's
Right.
a self-test.
It-
So what do I mean?
incredibly dumb question.
The individual can drive up, receive the items, because again, we still want to just test people with fever and symptoms that really need to be tested. They can
can't believe this.
self-swab the front of their nose, put it in the container, then the person can collect it with gloves alone with the biohazard bag, and get it in. I just want to speak to the Americans for just a second, though. We have to ensure that we still are testing, even though probably by today we will have done more tests than South Korea did in 8 weeks.
Our
in the last
population is
8
much
days.
bigger, though.
In the last 8 days, we've done more testing than South Korea. But we did that because we transformed the testing process, as the president spoke to. But we don't want people who are just worried to go get tested. If you don't have a persistent fever, if you don't have a cough, if you're not in the risk group, if you're not a nurse or doctor, we really want the testing and the drive-through testing and the testing that is provided in the cities to be very much still focused on the people who need it, because there's only so much even those high throughput machines are doing. They're doing about 50, 60, 70,000 tests a day now. They could get potentially to 150,000 a day. But we want to make sure we're testing in the areas that really have the problems.
Yeah, Bill, it's
All
one
right,
of the things.
and
just to
knowing the
amplify
difference
that point,
between
if
the
I may.
home
Oh, boy.
and, go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Harris. You know, the American people are asking all the time. The president and I hear it all the time and see it. It's what,
People are
what
asking,
can they do to make a difference?
What the F are you doing?
And in addition to the 15 days to slow the spread, the American people can take Dr. Birx's advice. It's that old proverb that it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. And one of the ways that you can help is by recognizing we want to focus testing on people that have symptoms. Although according to the tests now, as the Surgeon General said, 90% of the people that have been tested for the coronavirus don't have it. Okay, that number, we've tested more than 320,000 people, and that's an encouraging number,
It's
I would
not.
expect. But for any American
It just
out
means
there
people
that
are
just
worried.
may be concerned but not be symptomatic, one of the ways you can make sure the testing's available for people that have symptoms, and just as importantly for our health care workers that we want to make sure have all the protective equipment that they need, you can recognize that if you don't have symptoms, don't do a test.
Harris, one
Thank
thing
you
I
both
might
for
add.
taking
Remember, Rand Paul had no symptoms, got tested, and he has it. He went to the gym.
Again, we took something that was broken and we made it the model. And I didn't even know, I just heard the number for the first time from Deborah, that in a short period of time we've done more testing than South Korea. Now, you're not going to read that in the newspapers because they don't like to write things like that.
Well,
But,
per capita, it's irrelevant.
I'd love you to say that one more time, because that's a big number. We've done more than South Korea in a short period of time. We're doing more now than South Korea by a lot.
He's in 8
What was
weeks.
that number?
So we're believing that there are probably around 29,000,
290,000.
290,000 tests.
Almost 300,000.
And now we're way over 300,000, but we achieved that over the last 7 to 8 days. We have to do more. We understand
They
that.
did
but
that
we
over 8
want
weeks.
Over
We're
about
going
8
up,
weeks.
We're going up proportionally. We're going up very, very rapidly. Every day we're going up.
What was
up.
our negative test rate at the moment? Is it
glad you
90%
asked.
or is it higher?
So I really am glad you asked, because this gets into where is the virus now and where is it expanding. And so across the country, our test rates are still way under 10%, except for one place, New York City, Metro New York, New Jersey, close to New York City. Those rates are coming in the 28% range. Right now, New York, the case attack rate, what we're talking about, the number of people who are getting infected, is 4 to 5 times any other place in the country.
Why is that? Density of population?
I think part of it is density, part of it is the spread that may have happened on metal surfaces, like in the subway and people that were in the subway. Part of it may be a large number of people came back after Christmas from Asia that didn't get caught up in the closure.
Do you blame the governor for that?
And part of it could be the Europeans who have come back subsequently. And obviously it's a big area of world trade and global transit. So I think the virus probably was quietly expanding, because until it gets into an older population, you don't really see it in the same way.
Thank you for that. And we'll get to all of you again in a moment here. Going to get a quick break here. More of your questions from across America here at the White House.
Every segment is just worse and worse and worse. It's just not getting any better. How can you possibly be optimistic when this is what these are the people that are leading? It's stunning. Let me say a couple thank yous. Christopher Hilst is new member number 19 on my website, joinpacman.com. Roly Vachon is new member number 20 at joinpacman.com. And Mike Saszewski, I hope that's the right pronunciation, is new member number 21. Remember, if you're joining us on YouTube, we are in the middle of a Trump Fox News town hall. This apparently, instead of today, the daily press briefings that we have been getting. Remember, if you are watching on YouTube, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel. We have surpassed 818,000 subscribers and are well on our way to 819,000. Everybody who likes and subscribes really is helping us out significantly, and I appreciate that. Info Minimal says Trump doing wisecracks and smirking, says that via Super Chat. Yeah, it's very bad. Leica says watch Cuomo's presser, very dramatic. Ryan Nowicki says if someone compares to the flu, I refer them to the metric used to measure how contagious a disease is, known as reproduction rate. Keep it up, David. So there's two differences that are really important between the flu. There's really three between the flu and coronavirus. Number one, the flu has a seasonality that does vary each year. There are worse flus and less bad flus, but it's not a situation where it's growing exponentially and we have to get it under control. Difference number one. Difference number two, coronavirus appears to be significantly more contagious. Lately, it appears as though the R for coronavirus, the initial range was 1.5 to 4.5. It seems like they've narrowed that to somewhere around 2.2 or 2.4. More than the flu, less than measles. Measles is so contagious. I think the contagion rate for measles can be 14, 16, 18, where someone can get in an elevator with measles, get off. You later get on a different floor and you could conceivably get measles, and it's that contagious. We're not dealing with that, but we're dealing with something more contagious than the flu. And then even in the best case, if we have, in this particular situation, a death rate of 0.7, it could be 0.8, it could be 1, 1.2, 1, somewhere in there. The flu is 0.15. So we have a significantly worse death rate. So comparing it to the flu is as wrong as it is irresponsible, quite frankly. Let me say thank you to Chad Lovelace. Chad Lovelace is new member number 22 today at joinpacman.com. Thanks, Chad. Let's see. Shelly Webb says, David, I'm trying to join and having problems with your website. A lot of people are joining, so I think the website is fortunately working well right now. Colligan Craft says, Cuomo didn't buy ventilators in 2015, really? This is all they've got to pass the blame. JJ Duff says, Fox death number is missing New York numbers. Coincidence? Yeah, I don't have, let's take a look. I do have the numbers here. The latest numbers, if I refresh. Today, we're looking at plus 69. And yes, indeed, that data is not what Fox News has on screen. Who knows why? I think we can guess.
We can kill the virus and give a lot of people hope about getting back to their regular lives.
It's true.
You said something 20 minutes ago that I'm sure a lot of people were pretty keen on. You said that we would, I'm paraphrasing now, you would like to be back to normal by Easter Sunday.
Yes.
That's 19 days from now.
It's okay.
Is that true? Is that possible? Or is that false?
I think it's possible. Why isn't it? I mean, we've never closed the country before, and we've had some pretty bad flus, and we've had some pretty bad viruses, and I think it's absolutely possible. Now, people are going to have to practice all of the social distancing and don't shake hands and wash your hands and all of the things that we're doing now, but we have to get our country back to work. Our country wants to be back at work. That was not a controversial thing I said the other day. Our country wants to go back to work. And again, the cure, it's like this cure is worse than the problem. Again, many people, in my opinion, more people are going to die if we allow this to continue. We have to go back to work. Our people want to go back to work.
But what you have said consistently is the first order of business is to kill the virus. So when you look at the data from around the world and across our country, how do you determine that 19 days from now it might be safe? Because there are millions of people watching this now who have their family fortune on the line.
Well, they have their family fortune on the line the other way, too. They're going to lose their jobs, maybe never to get them back. They're going to lose their businesses, never to get them back. We want to start up as soon as we can because we're going to have a very quick comeback if we do that. If we delay this thing out, you're going to lose more people than you're losing with the situation as we know it. So I think it's very important for our country to go back. And I've had many, many people, you know, when you said it was a little bit controversial, not to most people. Most people think I'm right about it. Now, whether we're locked in a room or whether we're in our office and practicing all of the things that we're supposed to be practicing, staying away from each other, you know, et cetera. It's not shaking hands, washing your hands all the time. But our country has to get back to work. Yeah, otherwise, it's going to be very hard to start it up again. We can't lose the advantage that we have.
What we're trying to figure out in this whole scenario here is how deadly the virus is. And so far, it is highly contagious, but not very deadly. We can agree on that based on the data, correct?
Yes. I mean, yes.
So when you take the answer of Easter Sunday, do you see that as realistic? Do you see that as possible?
So my job, and I think what's really important, is a lot of what we've done is we've tackled this epidemic the way people said we should have tackled flu in 1918. And they compared St. Louis, who took this kind of approach, to Philadelphia. What we're trying to do now is use 21st century solutions and trying to get data down to the most granular level so we understand what's happening at the area of the spread. So even today, there are counties throughout the United States that don't have their first case. So our job is to make sure they never have their first case and ensure that our efforts are focused on where the virus is expanding. That can be done today because we have that level of granularity. So that's what the president has asked us to put together, to use these 2 weeks to get all the data from around the country and all the data from around the globe and really understand what's working. And it's really important that the Americans know, I know the vice president covered this very clearly in the first hour, but every American needs to continue the president's guidelines for these next 6 days or 7 days. We have to have them following those guidelines.
I see the Surgeon General shaking his head in agreement, too.
Bill, excuse me, just 1 second. You can't compare this to 1918, where close to 100 million people died. That was a flu, which is a little different, but that was a flu where if you got it, you had a 50-50 chance or very close of dying. I think we're substantially under 1% because the people that
the
get
1918 flu had a 50% death rate. Can anyone fact check that? That does not sound right.
And we're still a little bit above 1%. When you add all of the people, the millions of people that have it, that get better, we're substantially less than 1%. And when they came to my office, don't forget, they were saying 3%, 4%.
I'm seeing 2.5%.
Difference. No, we have to put our country back to work.
We have a few minutes left, and I want to bring in our panel of experts, too. Dr. Mehmet Oz is with us, Dr. Mark Siegel, and Dr. Nicole Saphier. I want to give you guys a round of questions quickly here with Dr. Oz. Why don't we start with Dr. Siegel this time around? Go ahead, Mark.
Mr. President, with the deaths going over 600 today, I want to say that the fear that's coming out of this disturbs me the most. And fear divides. You need unification and unified leadership to fight the fear. So I was really encouraged to see you reaching out to governors, Governor Cuomo, Governor Newsom, making liaisons that weren't there before. Do you think that kind of movement, where you're the leader and other people work with you, will help us to isolate the virus in the epicenters where they are, to separate...
Put the question in the trash. This is a trash question.
...thereby squash the virus?
I do. I think, Doctor, it's a very good thing, and Governor Newsom and I have been getting along really great. We're sending the ship, the great hospital ship, as you know, and we are doing very well with, I think, almost all of the governors. For the most part, it really has become something. We're dealing almost every day. We're speaking to each other, whether it's conference calls. Usually we'll have 50 governors on the call at the same time. No, I think we're doing very well. But, you know, it's a two-way street. They have to treat us well also. They can't say, oh, gee, we should get this, we should get that. we're doing a great job, like in New York, where we're building, as I said, 4 hospitals, 4 we're literally building hospitals and medical centers. And then I hear that, there's a problem with ventilators. Well, we sent them ventilators, and they could have had 15 or 16,000. All they had to do is order them 2 years ago, but they decided not to do it. They can't blame us for that.
Dr. Oz is up next. Go ahead, doctor.
Let's see what he has.
President Trump, a good surgeon knows after the surgery when his patient can be discharged, and these 15 days are like a big operation on America.
Yeah.
But a great surgeon knows when there's a complication after discharge. So if we can meet the goal of fixing America and getting it back on its feet by Easter, I'd love to know exactly how you know that is safe from a medical perspective. What's going to indicate that we might have to pull back a tiny bit in case we have a relapse?
Well, I think, Doctor, a thing like that could happen, but I really believe that we can do much of what we're doing, and we can do it from a work environment instead of
Fauci would never be tolerating these bullshit questions, right?
The business is gone. The business is gone, and everybody's suffering depression. You know better than anybody about depression. I've watched where you talk about depression, and that causes death, and it causes a lot of problems. And
doesn't Oz also promote pseudoscience depression treatment?
Apartment or house, and in the meantime their restaurants closed, their businesses closed. They want to be saving their business, and I believe very strongly you're going to lose far more people by going that way than you are if we kept this thing going. I could keep them out. I mean, I'm sure that we have doctors that would say, let's keep it closed for 2 years, okay? Let's close it up for 2 years. No, we got to get it open. Our people want it open, and that's the way this country was built.
Dr. Nicole Saphier now. Doctor, go ahead with your question.
Thank you. And President Trump, I do believe as a nation that we are beholden to you for your decisive, swift action in the beginning with the travel ban. I do think that we would have been in a much different, worse situation had that not happened. However, we still did have a lag in the testing, which of course did not have anything to do with you. But my question is for Dr. Birx and the task force. As we still see across the nation that some people are not able to get tests, I have colleagues that still can't test some of their patients. Is there a plan to fast track or even parallel track rapid ELISA serological testing to try and get this out there so that we can mobilize more PPE and more hospital beds by doing more testing and being able to isolate those people quickly?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So right now, the tests that we have are all based on the RNA of the virus. And so we're utilizing the platforms, and thank goodness we're utilizing the platforms that were developed really to work and support HIV-positive clients. So this is their machines that have been used to detect their viral load for the last more than a decade in the United States. Those machines right now are being utilized for this test in a high-throughput way. We've asked developers to work on a point-of-care fingerprint test that could be used for antibody and antigen, but the antibody test will only tell you if you have been infected. Even if we can get IgM, it will be part of the early and probably recovery phase. And then we're working with companies to work on getting RNA tests that are point of care. So these are really critical tests that people are working on right now. But in the meantime, we're using what we have today to ensure that we can get more testing done. And I just want to say, I want to thank the American people and physicians who have let us prioritize. Remember, we didn't have this platform until 8 days ago. We've done all of these diagnoses for inpatients primarily so that they can get on the appropriate therapy, and we prioritize our testing to hospital patients. We will, over the next few weeks, be able to make more tests available to the actual American public with symptoms and to the doctor's offices as you've requested.
And Nicole, it's important to remember we've done more tests in 8 days than South Korea has done in 8 weeks. And our tests are better. They're highly sophisticated. And frankly, I took one. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world, I will tell you that. We're going to have a much simpler test very soon. But we have a really good test, and we've done more in 8 days. Nobody knows that. I just heard this number a few minutes ago. I learned it from being on your show, actually.
I think the way you
Pretty
described
impressive.
it was up the nasal passage and, took a
and
right
hang
hand,
a right.
hang a right at the eye.
Hang a right under the eye.
To all of you, stand by. We've got a few more moments left here, but as our virtual town hall continues, to all the doctors, Nicole Saphier, Mehmet Oz, and Mark Siegel, we very much rely on you on a day-to-day basis.
That's
Thank you
tragic.
for being a part of this today. Quick commercial break. Back to the Rose Garden in a moment as our town hall.
I mean, this is just an embarrassment. It's a complete and total embarrassment that, I mean, these are the doctors asking questions. This is, Fauci's gone. The Surgeon General and Dr. Birx have fallen in line. They're just brown-nosing Trump. It's really sick. Let me thank a few other people. Joseph King is new member number 23 today at joinpacman.com. Joseph, thank you. I appreciate your support. Edward Milhausen is new member number 24 today. Very much appreciate it. And we are very, very close to our goal of 25 new members. Let me say thank you to some folks on Twitch. Cash Lasco has subscribed with Twitch Prime. I also want to say thank you to Shisa Lion Dog for cheering 200 bits. Very much appreciate it. We're getting down to the last few minutes here of the Trump Fox News Town Hall. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to hit that like button and also hit the subscribe button. Very much appreciate everybody who's been supportive of the streams. Tony Rice says Trump is going to get us all killed. That's the feeling from a lot of people. JJ Delaney says, watching from Ireland, love your show. Do they understand that risk is not only to the U.S., but everyone you are connected to, and that is everyone in the world? I don't pretend to have any idea what they do or don't understand at this point. JHWH says, U.S. has only 10 times the cases as Austria, but 20 times the death. James Justice says, his question, do you think being cool and epic is working? Yeah, the questions from those three doctors were just an absolute and complete joke. Love Inspired says they definitely got rid of Fauci. No coincidence. Charlie says, could we be in worse hands? My goodness. It's a tragedy. It's really a tragedy that this is what's going on. And our only hope, really our only hope, is that governors act responsibly. And, now Trump clearly now is thinking about around April 12th, lifting the bans or the guidelines and saying, let it rip. And I just don't know that that's really going to be enough time. Aaron Russell has just subscribed at joinpacman.com and is new member number 25 today. Number 25 at joinpacman.com. Thanks, Aaron. Very much appreciate it. Also want to say thanks to Green Apples. Green Apples has subscribed with Twitch Prime. And one last reminder, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, the David Pakman Show viewer chess tournament. Everybody's welcome. We'll be doing it on leechess.org. I'm the 2019 champion. Here's my trophy. Whoever wins tomorrow night will get their own trophy. We may even make it a bigger trophy. We're looking very seriously at an even bigger trophy. 8 p.m. tomorrow night, I'll be streaming as I play. Open to everybody, absolutely everybody. If you're stuck at home and maybe chess isn't your favorite, but you're looking for something to do, come participate. Look forward to playing and look forward to getting crushed, certainly, by some of the people in our audience. But that's okay. That's okay. Porthole says, notice the number of ambulance sirens. I didn't notice. I keep hearing birds during this town hall, but I've not been hearing the sirens.
Back here in the Rose Garden at the White House, I'm Bill Hemmerlaw with my colleague Harris Faulkner. I have about 90 seconds left, and just with the panel here, the President, the Vice President, Dr. Birx, and the Surgeon General, thank you again for your time. I see this as a public service, but also as a way to try and figure out what the facts are, and that's the reason we came here.
It's not helping figure them out.
You were just saying again, Mr. Vice President, during the commercial, the way you can achieve your objective is how?
Well, the President made it clear yesterday that we want to open up the country as soon as we can. But the key is that more Americans, and tens of millions are, Bill, but more Americans have put into practice the President's coronavirus guidelines. 15
Just read
days
those
to
off because it's hard to see.
The sooner we'll be able to open.
Tens of millions in a country of 340 million are doing it. It's not enough.
Hygiene, it's if you're sick, stay home. If someone in your house has the virus, stay home. But it's also avoiding groups of more than 10, avoiding unnecessary travel. Don't eat in restaurants during this period of time. Use the drive-through. These are all the principles that every American can do. Now, there are going to be Americans that have different guidance from their state and local officials that are more stringent. We defer to that. We respect that. But the more Americans that do this, the sooner that we'll be able, as the President said, to get back to work.
We have to be a patient nation if you're going to ask them to do that, as you well know. Mr. President, thank you for your time. And I'll see you a bit later on Bill Hemmer Reports at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And to Mr. Vice President Mike Pence, thank you. Dr. Birx, terrific work.
Big interview coming up with,
thank you for sharing your knowledge with
Bill
us today.
Hemmer.
That is it from here at the White House. And Harris, I will see you back in New York very soon. I hope the last 2 hours held some value for a lot of our viewers.
They did. They confirmed that we do have completely and totally incompetent people running the show, and it will be merely by chance if we can avoid a historically high death rate. All right, guys, that does it for me today. I've got to get back to all of my normal work. Appreciate everybody who joined me. We'll see you at the next Trump coronavirus press conference, and also 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, Wednesday night, for the David Pakman Show Viewer Chess Tournament. I'll see you then. Thanks.